Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go over the trades that we took inside the Discord today and the game plan for tomorrow. So, as we went over yesterday, I told you guys the market is bullish. So, how do we know we're bullish? We look on the Friday contracts on the 30-minute time frame. That tells us the trend in the market. So, since the 575 calls are crossed here on the 30-minute, that means the market is bullish and we are only focusing on trades to the upside because we know the trend is to the upside, so why would we go against it? Just wouldn't make sense. So what are we looking for? 0 DT cross on calls, 50 dip on calls. Those are pretty much the main setups, and this is what we got today. So this is what the 0-day chart looked like, the 0 DT chart looked like. Again, right off of open, where were we? We opened right in this area, right up in here. I actually tried to take this off of open. I was in lighter size just because it was right off open. This candle right here was where I entered. It was like 9:32 I entered, and I ended up getting out at break even because on the opening candle of the, I think, 9:35, this 50 ended up turning back down, so I got out right at my entry. The reason I did take this was because the 50 was up, we were sitting right around the 10, it looked good. Only problem was that it was like right at open, and sometimes we do, the crosses do work right off of open very well. So I decided to take the chance since I know the trend was bullish, and since we were bullish, I took the opportunity to go long, and I got stopped at break even on this. I was up probably 20 points at one point, but ended up coming back down to my entry, and I got out once that 50 ended up turning down, because at one point this 50 was sloped up very nicely, and it was a little riskier off of open, so I did go lighter on that, wasn't in with too much. And then, this chart ended up losing the 50 SMA here. You don't buy this 50 dip right here because this 50 is sloped down. So that's something to stay away from. Again, this was like right off of open too, so higher risk. We broke the 50, chart went negative, and again, this is not a trade you take. Like, trading the system and doing well is all about knowing what trades you want to be taking. We know the market's bullish on the 30-minute, so why would we take a negative cross on calls? That, it just wouldn't make sense. And I always go over this. I say a lot of the times, if the calls go negative and we're in trend, like if we're bullish like we are now, a lot of times it'll go negative and then just recross right back up, and because we know that, because the trend is bullish, so it's more likely to happen, and that's what happened. We ended up getting this cross right here. Does not look like a big move at all. It really wasn't. It was like 60 points on NQ. I'll show you guys the entry. I have a picture of it, of what it, like the exact chart of what it looked like, just so you get better idea of where I entered. I'm trying to go back into the chat and find where I entered, but it was a picture perfect entry. It was a bottom tick. There was zero drawdown on this at all. It went in my favor as soon as we got in this, and here it is. I'm gonna drag it over for you. This is the entry, exact entry that I got on this. 10:35 I entered. It was a little early, because if this candle ended up slamming down a little bit to like 0.9 to like 0.85, it probably wouldn't have looked as good. I took this because I know the trend is bullish, and this 50 is already turning up. The 10 is really close to the 50, and we'd have to really drop hard for this to not cross. So I took my chances with this. You could have waited like an extra 2 or 3 minutes if you wanted, but this was the entry I took. It looked really nice, and a lot of the times I do take entries before the actual cross. It all depends on the chart and the type of market we're in, but when it looks like this, when the 10 is close to the 50 and the 50 is already turning up, I mean, this is an entry I'm going to take 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, because I know the trend's in my favor, and if anything, I'll start with lighter size and then average up into the trade. That's something I do a lot, is averaging up into my trades, and that's how I squeeze the most out of my winners. And we got like 60 points on this. If you like timestamp that right at 35, I mean, this gave like 60 points, I think, at the peak. For a trending market though, that's not really that many points. I mean, it's a solid move, like regardless of the market, but I was looking for more. I did take some off, like towards like 50 to 55 points, but I was still holding a good chunk because I know the market's bullish, and I was hoping to catch more of a move because the charts looked really good. I mean, they looked really good. The market just ended up like stopped moving pretty much because we ended up pulling back in here and just chopping a lot, which was unfortunate. But we ended up pulling back in this 50, and this dip right here, if you didn't get in the cross yet, this was the spot to add, and this gave like 30 points from the 50. It wasn't a lot again. This chart doesn't really look that great, but NQ was a lot stronger, so that did help for us. I trade NQ all the time, so it was good that the NASDAQ was stronger. because when I held this entire, not the entire position, but I ended up holding, my trade until we lost the 50. Right here, I closed it because, we closed well the 50 SMA. that's when we know to get out of the trade. And since NQ is stronger, when I got out right here, I was still up like 35 to 40 points from my initial entry. So that was still, this was a good trade to hold in my opinion, because I was, if the market was in our favor today, and actually we actually moved, NQ, this would have been an easy 100-point trade if S&P wasn't so weak. But is what it is. I was holding this until the 50 broke, because I didn't buy this 50 dip because we already bought. I averaged up on this, so there's no point really to buy this dip if you already bought it back here. Just doesn't make much sense. But if you bought right here, you were probably still green, honestly, if you closed it on this candle right here. But you should have been in on the cross right here. You were up 60 points. I trimmed a little bit, not too much, because like I said, I knew we were trending. A lot of times these moves give a lot bigger moves, is what it is. Didn't work out, and then this chart went negative, and then that's not a trade you take. Even though we did drop, I'm not taking that trade. Like, that's just not a trade you want to be taking, because a lot of times this will happen and you will get cooked. And you always want to take the most probable trades, and this one right here is not one of those. So after we lost the 50 here, market really did not do anything the rest of the day. So if we go to the put side of things, we ended up popping into this 50 right here. Usually I would take this trade, but we never close below this 10 SMA. So a lot of the time I do wait for this to reject the 50 here and then close below the 10 to get an entry, and then that never happened. You could try the initial reject, but you probably would have taken a small loss on it, maybe small green, because we ended up closing above right there. The next candle did open right under it, so you could have still held that possibly, and we got a little bit of a pop, but there was really nothing going on in here. It was really choppy. So this negative cross right here I didn't even take because of how we were moving. Like, that's the thing with the system. You got to know like when to not trade. Like, if the market is moving very like choppy and we're barely moving, I wouldn't even consider taking a trade. Doesn't really matter the circumstance of like the market, or not the market, but like the system. Since we were really choppy, I was out the rest of the day. I mean, there was really no point to trade the rest of the day after the calls ended up going negative there after the cross happened. Just because the odds aren't in our favor at this point. Like, the market was barely moving, very choppy. If you want to continue trading and try and catch a move, cool. But like, we were barely moving. Like, we were moving like 20 points, like in a 20-point range. Like that's nothing. And it's just not worth trading. So we know better days are ahead. You just got to be patient and move on to the next day. So hopefully tomorrow we catch a good move. That'd be great. If we could get a nice 0-day cross tomorrow, that would be the plan. Like I said, the market's bullish. So what do we look for tomorrow? Game plan for tomorrow. So 30-minute chart here, market's bullish. The higher time frames look really good too. Like, look at this hourly. Hourly's up nice. The 2 hours, like what the current resistance is, but I mean, we already broke above, pulled back to the 10. This chart doesn't really concern me at all. There's nothing really going on the higher time frames that are saying that we're gonna reject. We closed above the 10. The 4 hours kind of riding this 10 SMA. These higher time frames I don't really pay attention to that much when it comes to like the 10 SMA. Like, these charts aren't really telling too much. I just kind of look at them at the end of the day and see what the higher time frames look like, because right now, I mean, the charts are really bullish. 1 hour's crossed, 30 minutes crossed. The 2 hour isn't crossed yet, but it's not really a concern. Like I said, I still favor up. So game plan tomorrow: 0-day cross on calls, 50 dip on calls. If for some reason this chart, let's say we gap down tomorrow a good amount and this chart goes negative, okay, market's back neutral, probably will be taking a short trade. Probably will be a 10 reclaim on puts, because if we do cross on puts, we'll probably be at the 50. So if we did continue lower, 10 reclaim on puts at that point, because you don't buy the 50 dip when we are neutral. Unless, like I said, if this chart's going negative, you could technically buy the 50 dip on the 0-day chart. But if you're new to trading the system, just know that when we're neutral, you don't buy the 50 dip on the 0-day chart. Certain circumstance you could, but keep it simple. Just know, neutral market, buy 50 dips. Only when we have trend, which we currently have, and that's why we did buy the 50 dip today on the call side. But other than that, that's the game plan for tomorrow. I kind of rambled a bit, but hope you guys understand. If you guys got questions, drop a comment. Join the Discord down below if you want to learn. I post all the trades that I take, or most of the trades that I take. I don't post every single one, but I try to give you guys the most probable setups, and that's also what I'm looking for every day. Like, the #1 setup, I'm gonna give it to you guys. And yeah, if you guys enjoy, drop a sub. I'm out. Peace.